A new Blizzard survey went out to random recipients, asking the community for feedback about the possibility of Classic Fresh servers, updates to Classic, and a preferred phase cadence after launch. Alright, so what we got? So we've got... I'd like to open. So if the Classic Fresh Start realms were introduced, how likely or unlikely would you be to start playing on Classic Fresh Start realms? If the changes you like were implemented. So summoning stones at dungeon entrances, that's a sensible change. Sensible change. More difficult raid bosses and dungeon encounters. So private servers, just up tuning. Alright. Increased debuff limit on raid bosses. Allows a bit more flexibility of classes, yeah. So warlocks can actually use dots. Druids can use bleeds, blah, 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 blah. But still, bleeds be shit, so... Barbershop, who gives a shit? Faster XP rates to level. No world buffs in raids. So really, are they just going to go down the whole like private server route of things? Overall, how much do you like or dislike the following changes you may potentially see on a Classic Fresh Start realm? So when they're saying potentially see, when a company says you might potentially see this, it means you're going to be getting it. So fresh, I would say, fresh Classic realms are coming. But they're just, yeah, dressing it up. Faster XP rates, barbershop, no world buffs. Increased debuff limit, black market auction house for vanity items. Original Valley design, more difficult raid bosses, increased rates of item drops, earn gold at faster rates, summoning stones at dungeon entrances. It's literally all the things that private servers added because they're shit in the original game. If the Classic Fresh Start realms were introduced, how likely or unlikely are you to start playing? Oh, hang on, that's the same shit. Was it just those two? Well, there's more than that. What's this? Why can I not see that one? The Classic, WoW Classic Fresh Start realms, we're considering accelerating the cadence of the new phase releases and making some changes to allow players to keep up. Same WoW Classic as August, right? Okay, so nearly 2 years. Accelerated 12 months, so it restarts every 12 months. 6 months. 6 months is a bit extreme. 12 months would be good, yeah, like a yearly refresh. But I mean, to me, that just like all they're doing is just trying to look at what private servers do right, what they do wrong, and then mimic private servers. To me, it sounds nice, you know, as in, yeah, it sounds nice, but they're talking about doing a 12-monthly cycle of Classic, yet they're going to drag the shit out of TBC, like I guarantee. You know, I mean, what about the people who haven't played Classic before and they want to come back and play it and they can't keep up with the content rate, you know? The same with TBC. You know, with TBC, yes, I would much prefer... I'd have rather Tier 4 and 5 was out at the same time. And then Tier 6 came about, I don't know, 3 months later. Get that knocked out. 6 months later, let's say, maximum. Get Sunwell Plateau out. 3 months after that, boom, let's get into Wrath. You know, I'd rather knock through the content. It's not old. It's not new, sorry. It's all old content. There's no excuse to not know the tactics for every single boss, every single dungeon. Know where you're going to get every single upgrade from. It's not new, so you might as well just fucking rattle through it quick and get from expansion to expansion until they want to go, that's it, like dead horse, we start from the beginning again. And I'd rather that. I'd rather go a year of vanilla, TBC, Wrath, boom, back to vanilla, TBC, Wrath. Every 3 years, you're just in a 3 yearly cycle. I would be fully down for that, but it's probably not going to happen because, as I say, they're going to try and milk the shit out of this while they're getting Wrath ready. They've probably got Tier 7 ready, like now. The only thing that worries me a little bit is the way they're going to release content in the future phases. And I say that because if you think about in the beta what was tested, so flight form, like Swift flight form, the quest line was never tested. But they tested Ogrelar dailies, they tested Shatari Skyguard dailies. That to me, if they tested those dailies, they're probably going to come in phase 2. And if they come in phase 2, they wouldn't have been in phase 2, if you know what I mean. I know it's difficult to try and comprehend the difference between what happened back in the day and the phases now, but because we had tier 5 out. But technically those things shouldn't start coming until phase 3. So they're going to bring certain content not necessarily forward, they're holding it back, because we should already have tier 5 now. But I just feel like they're going to tie a bow around things and chuck them in during tier 5 when they shouldn't really be there. They shouldn't actually be there till tier 6 because they're fucked up, as you'll find out soon enough. The whole separating tier 4 and 5, in my opinion, I was never, other than doing it for longevity, I was never on board with it to begin with, because it's just it makes no sense. There's a severe sort of like, not content drought, but there's not that much to do, even for someone who only plays a couple of hours a day. And then by the time we then get to tier 5, there's not that much being added if they was to follow how it was back in the day, other than put in TK and SSC in. And that's 2 raids that would have been there back in the day. They'd already be cleared, don't get me wrong. If I was in the game now, obviously they'd have been cleared in the first week. But it's the whole dragging content out that I don't particularly... I just can't get on board with it. It's like, just put it out. If people are going to clear it, they're going to clear it. But like, stick to sort of at least roughly how it was back in the day. Because now we've got things in the game now that shouldn't be there, or wouldn't have been there. We've got things that should be there that are not there. We've got things when tier 5 launches that will come in, like dailies, that wouldn't have been there back in the day, but they're going to be there because they'll use it just to make it look like it's a bigger patch than it should be. And then as we get to the end, and that's what you've got to think about, I think once we get to phase 3, I think there's going to be next to fuck all to come out after that. They're going to probably bring all the juicy bits forward, like dailies and stuff like that. So really, between phase 4 is going to be a non-event. You know, phase 3 will be decent because you get Black Temple, you get Hyjal. Phase 4, alright, you get Zolaman, but that's it. No one really cares about that. But then there's going to be that big gap, and I think that's going to be the drop-off point for subscribers between phase 3 and 5. And then even when 5 comes out, at the end of the day, in phase 5, the majority of people are not going to be that invested. As in, they're not going to be that bothered about wasting loads of gold on consumables for Sunwell Plateau or anything like that. Other than like super hardcore guilds where they want to get it cleared, will get it cleared. But, you know, it's a massive gold investment for when you know Sunwell Plateau will be around for a few months, then you're in the Wrath pre-patch, and then you're going into Wrath. It's, you know, I feel like that last tier of each raid is almost going to be spoiled by the fact that we know we're going to get the next Classic expansion. So it's like the first couple of phases are really important, but for me, the last phase needs spicing up in some way. You know, rather than getting all this stuff out early, holding some of it back for I don't know, more retention towards the end. Because me personally, phase 5, I'm not really bothered about. I want to clear everything, tier 4, 5, 6. But Sunwell Plateau, I'm genuinely not that bothered about. Because what's it going to do? It's going to make my leveling a few months later slightly easier. But like slightly. But it's still not important. Other than just to see the content, you know. But anyway, that's my rant over. And I think it's the last phase of each expansion that I need to think a little bit more about.